The alien vessel Aurelia Prime glided silently through the black sea of stars. Within its medical wing, lights pulsed faintly along smooth metallic walls, casting the room in a sterile, almost sacred glow. Rows of diagnostic pods lined the chamber, each a transparent shell that hummed with the sound of scanning arrays and biomonitors. Inside one pod sat a human, pale, weary-eyed, and sneezing. Dr. Veron, a tall, spindly medic from the Rylox Collective, adjusted the array of floating holograms above the pod. His 6 fingers tapped in rhythmic precision, recalibrating filters, checking contagion levels, analyzing the strange organism racking the human's body. His translucent eyelids blinked rapidly as he muttered to his assistant, "This is alarming. The pathogen replicates in mucous membranes. It is spread by exhalation. Contagion, potential, catastrophic." Across the chamber, 3 more alien medics stood in tense silence, their physiology sleek, bioluminescent skin stretched across angular frames, seemed made for cold logic. But tonight, unease radiated from them. The human named Alex Carter had been aboard their vessel for only 3 weeks, an exchange envoy from Earth meant to bridge interstellar understanding. Now, this fragile being might be the vector for planetary disaster. "Quarantine all decks immediately," Varen commanded. "Seal off atmospheric circulation. If this spreads..." His voice trailed into a chittering whisper, something between fear and calculation. Alex coughed loud, rough echoing through the pristine chamber. He groaned, wiped his nose with the back of his hand, and then, to the astonishment of everyone present, chuckled. "You guys are acting like I'm dying. Relax. It's just a cold." The phrase, casual and dismissive, meant little to the Rylox medics, but the tone, the ease was incomprehensible. Varen turned sharply, his silver eyes narrowing. "Just a cold," he repeated, running the words through the translator bead in his throat. "You name this plague, you minimize it." Alex leaned back in the pod, voice hoarse but calm. "Yeah, happens all the time on Earth. You get the sniffles, sore throat, maybe a fever. Annoying as hell, but it's not deadly. Well, not unless you've got bigger health problems." The chamber fell into an eerie silence. The aliens' glowing markings dimmed as they processed this. Not deadly, their instruments showed viral replication rates unlike anything they had seen among their species. To them, a pathogen so easily transmissible could wipe out entire colonies. Yet here was this human laughing at the prospect. Varen clasped his elongated hands together. "You survive this regularly. Entire populations exposed without medical collapse." Alex gave a raspy laugh, followed by another cough. "Billions of us. Every winter, kids get it. Old folks get it. Everyone just drinks soup, stays home, and waits it out. Honestly, this is nothing compared to the flu." The word flu appeared on their translator feeds as severe infectious collapse syndrome. Several medics flinched. In that moment, the hierarchy of fear in the medical bay shifted. The human wasn't merely a patient. He was a mystery living proof of a species forged in microbial warfare that no Rylox could have survived. The chamber remained thick with tension, every medic's bioluminescent veins pulsing faintly in anxious rhythm. The diagnostic holograms above Alex Carter's pod spun with data. Viral particle density, immune response levels, and contagion probability charts that looked more like doomsday scenarios. Dr. Veron paced slowly, his elongated steps echoing across the metallic floor. "On Rylox," he said carefully, "an organism such as this would collapse our respiratory systems within hours. Containment protocols require immediate termination of the host." Several of the junior medics twitched, their eyes fixed nervously on Alex. To them, the idea of exterminating a carrier was standard procedure, not cruelty. Yet Alex Rednose, still sneezing, grinned faintly as if someone had just told him the punchline of a bad joke. "You're kidding, right?" he muttered, his voice congested. "You'd kill me over a cold." Veron's silver eyes blinked twice. "We would. Eliminate the infection. You carry it. To spare billions, we must consider sacrifice." Alex sat up, waving a hand dismissively. "No, no, no. You don't get it. On Earth, everyone gets colds. Everyone survives. It's like an annoying rite of passage. You blow your nose, you drink fluids, you wait a week. Nobody panics." The medics exchanged bewildered glances. They whispered in their chittering native tongue, the translator lagging behind in broken fragments. "Impossible resilience. Repeated exposure. Immune tolerance beyond probability." Finally, one younger medic, her markings glowing with alarm, spoke. "If exposure is so universal, your species should have collapsed long ago. How can billions endure constant microbial attack? This is evolutionary madness." Alex coughed again, his shoulders shaking. Then he smirked. Evolution's exactly the point. Earth is full of pathogens, bacteria, viruses, fungi. We grow up surrounded by them. Our immune systems are trained from birth. It's not madness, it's survival. The statement was delivered with such casual certainty that it made the aliens recoil. On Rylock's, microbial life was scarce, sterilized by centuries of environmental engineering. Their bodies were fragile, pristine, untested against such endless microscopic wars. To them, infection meant catastrophe. To the human, it meant an inconvenience. Dr. Veron leaned closer, studying Alex as though he were a specimen more extraordinary than the pathogen itself. "You are forged in disease," he murmured. "Your species does not merely endure infection, it thrives within a world saturated by it. You carry immunity as others carry weapons." Alex's smirk softened into a weary smile. "Yeah, you could say that. Our ancestors didn't have the tech to hide from germs. They had to fight them, generation after generation. Some didn't make it. The rest of us, well, we're here because our bodies got good at it." The medics absorbed this in silence, their minds reeling. To live in a world where infection was inevitable, where survival depended not on sterile walls but on internal battles fought invisibly in the blood that was alien beyond comprehension. Suddenly, the biomonitors beeped sharply, viral activity spiked, and the holograms flashed red. The aliens tensed, instinctively pulling back. Alex only sighed, reaching for a tissue. "Relax," he said, muffled as he blew his nose. "It's just a cold." But to the Relox medics, those words now carried the weight of a revelation. The medical bay's lights dimmed to a deeper hue as the Aurelia Prime initiated full quarantine. Transparent shields sealed the chamber, isolating Alex Carter from the rest of the crew. But unlike the panicked hush outside the doors, inside the medics were buzzing with curiosity, fear, and a dawning sense of awe. Dr. Verone stood at the center console, his elongated fingers tapping across holographic glyphs that shifted with living color. Alex's vitals floated in the air, elevated temperature, increased immune activity, oxygen fluctuations, but all within survivable ranges. For a human, this was unremarkable. For a Rylox, it was unthinkable. "His leukocyte count has doubled," murmured Assistant Lethra, her voice thin with disbelief. "The immune system is escalating on its own, without intervention." Varen nodded, eyes narrowing. "It adapts dynamically. Not sterilization, not eradication. Resistance. It meets the invader head-on, then remembers it." The word remembers sent a ripple of unease through the medics. Rylock's immune systems did not remember. They operated like fragile glass ether, intact or shattered. Infection meant shattering. To imagine an organism that carried battle strategies inside its blood was terrifying. Alex sniffled and raised a brow at their hushed conference. "You're talking about antibodies, right? That's just basic immunology. We've known that for centuries." Veron turned sharply, his silver eyes narrowing. "You understand this process?" Alex chuckled hoarsely. "Of course. Kids learn it in school. Our bodies fight germs, keep a record, and next time it's easier to win. That SY cold stand T kill us we've built up layers of defense over thousands of years." The chamber went silent again, every alien absorbing the weight of that casually spoken truth. Generations of humans had been hardened by invisible wars, victories written not in monuments but in DNA. One junior medic whispered what they were all beginning to think. If this resilience could be studied, if it could be transferred. Her voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. Humanity's microbial endurance wasn't just a curiosity. It was a resource, perhaps the most valuable biological treasure the galaxy had ever seen. Alex noticed their expressions and frowned. "Hey, don't get any ideas about experimenting on me. I'm not a guinea pig." Varen's voice was smooth, measured, but heavy with intent. "Do you not realize, human, what you dismiss as just a cold is, for us, apocalypse? And yet your body weathers it as if it were mere rain. This resilience could alter civilizations. It could mean survival against pandemics we cannot imagine." Alex gave a dry laugh that turned into a cough. "Yeah, and it could also backfire. Trust me, you don't want all our microbes. Some of them, well, let's just say history books are full of plagues." The medics exchanged uneasy looks. For every triumph there was a shadow. If humanity could survive so many microbial assaults, what nightmares had been unleashed along the way? Veron leaned closer to the pod, his voice low, almost reverent. "Perhaps the true weapon of your kind is not your machines, but the invisible arsenal you carry in your blood." For the first time, Alex's smirk faded. That's exactly what makes humans dangerous, even when we don't mean to be. The medbay felt colder now, though the temperature hadn't shifted. The alien medics stood in a semicircle around Alex's pod, their luminous markings flickering faintly like uncertain candlelight. What had begun as fear of infection had transformed into something more complicated. Temptation. Assistant Lethra broke the silence first, her voice sharp and eager. We should sequence his genome immediately. If we can isolate the mechanism of this immunity, Rylox could be safeguarded forever. Imagine no more fear of contamination, no more quarantines that cost lives and resources. Another medic nodded quickly, almost too quickly. Yes, if humanity has carried this resilience for millennia, then the cure for all infection lies within them. A single sample could inoculate entire colonies. But Dr. Veron did not answer at once. He stared at Alex, who was now lying back against the pod, eyes closed, shivering faintly but otherwise calm. The human's pulse rate was elevated, but steady. His immune system, visible on their holographic readouts, was fighting the infection with a precision and adaptability that defied Rylock's comprehension. Perhaps, Veron said slowly, but perhaps not. You speak of salvation, but I see danger. If this immunity is drawn from a history of microbial wars, then its strength comes from exposure, not isolation. What if we import not resilience, but the invaders themselves? The younger medics stiffened. To them, microbes were death. The thought of deliberately bringing them into their population was madness. Yet Lethra pressed forward, undeterred. Doctor, respectfully, you cannot ignore what this represents. If humans are immune to collapse from such pathogens, then their blood is a shield. We must learn how to wield it. Her words carried the sharpness of ambition, but also desperation. The Rylox had lived too long in sterile fear. The promise of freedom was intoxicating. Alex opened one eye, his voice hoarse but firm. You're walking on dangerous ground. Sure, my body can handle this cold virus, but what happens when you stumble on something worse? Trust me, Earth has had its share of pandemics. They don't always end well. Veron's gaze lingered on him. Yet you endure. You rebuild. Yeah, Alex admitted, his tone softer. But we also bury our dead. Don't think we're invincible. We've just learned to keep going. The chamber fell into silence again. The medics were divided, half drawn to the idea of harvesting human immunity, half recoiling from the risks. Finally, Veron spoke, his voice heavy with the authority of centuries. We will not treat this human as a specimen. Not while I command this vessel. He paused, his gaze sweeping over his staff. We will observe, document, and learn. But we will not tamper. Lethra's markings flared with frustration. She bowed stiffly, but her silence carried weight. Alex noticed the tension in the room and gave a weak smile. Good, because the last thing you want is to play with something you don't understand. On Earth we call that opening Pandora's box. The translator struggled with the phrase, spitting out garbled fragments. Container of unknown terrors, once opened, cannot be closed. The alien shifted uneasily. In that moment, Veron realized the truth. What humanity dismissed as ordinary, what they survived without second thought, was to his people the stuff of myth, of apocalypse. And somewhere deep in the sterile heart of the Aurelia Prime, a seed of unease had been planted. Not about the virus. About humanity itself. The Aurelia Prime cruised through the void, its halls sealed in quarantine protocols, but the debate in the medbay only grew louder. By now, Alex Carter had drifted into a restless sleep, his breath ragged but steady. The medics stood around his pod like scholars at a sacred text, their glowing skin flickering with agitation. His sneezes punctuated their argument like cannon fire in a council chamber. Lethra was the first to break the tense quiet. Dr. Veron, forgive me, but you are blind to the scale of this discovery. Look at him. He suffers, yes, but he does not die. If humans can withstand such relentless microbial assault, then perhaps this resilience explains their spread across their world, across harsh climates. Perhaps it is why they seek the stars now. They are built to endure. Another Manek nodded, her voice low with awe. They do not sterilize their worlds. They thrive in chaos, disease, famine, war, and, still, they continue. But Veron's markings pulsed darkly, betraying unease. Yes, they endure, but endurance forged in endless conflict may also bring endless conflict wherever they go. He gestured toward Alex's holographic vitals, the immune response chart glowing with furious activity. Do you not see? Every defense is born from a predator. Their survival is not PCIG, is perpetual war at the smallest scale. To carry such biology across the stars is to carry an arsenal we do not understand. The chamber fell silent at that. each medic wrestling with the thought. Humanity, by their nature, was inoculated against fear of microbes. But what if that very resilience made them reckless, blind to the danger they posed to others? Lethra, however, pressed on, her voice sharp. Doctor, with respect, our civilization cowers from infection. We have sealed ourselves in sterile chambers for centuries. Yet this human sneezes in the face of death and calls it trivial. Perhaps it is not they who are dangerous, but we who are weak. Her words stung because they rang with uncomfortable truth. The Rylox had eradicated their pathogens long ago, yes, but in doing so, they had stripped themselves of resilience. Their immune systems were fragile, their societies dependent on perfect sterility. One mistake, one breach, and collapse loomed. And here was Alex Carter, a lone envoy of Earth, carrying inside his cells the evolutionary memory of millennia of battles, shrugging at what would have been extinction for the Rylox. Veron studied the human's face, pale but peaceful in sleep. For a moment he wondered if Lethra was right. Perhaps humanity was not reckless, but simply adapted to a harsher truth of existence. That survival meant dancing with death, not hiding from it. Still, his voice was steady when he spoke again. Survivors, yes, but at what cost? If they bring with them not just resilience, but the plagues that forged it, they may spread more than knowledge. They may spread doom. The medics shifted uneasily. The debate was no longer just medical, it was philosophical, civilizational. Was humanity a gift to the galaxy, proof that survival through chaos was possible? Or were they a Pandora's box, carrying terrors their hosts did not yet understand? And somewhere in the shadows, Lethra's eyes lingered on Alex's sleeping form with something more dangerous than curiosity, ambition. The hum of the Aurelia Prime was steady, but the medbay carried the weight of an entire civilization's choice. Alex Carter slept uneasily in the pod, his body racked by coughs, yet his vitals never dipped into danger. For him, this was a nuisance. For the Rylox, it was a paradox. Dr. Veron convened his staff formally. Their luminous markings flickered like fireflies in debate. We must decide, he said gravely. Do we isolate and destroy, for the safety of our kind, or do we learn from what stands before us? Lethra stepped forward, her eyes sharp, voice brimming with conviction. Doctor, this is not merely a patient. This is proof. Proof that survival through infection is possible. If we turn away, we condemn ourselves to eternal weakness. But if we harness it, she paused, her markings glowing fiercely. We could become as resilient as the humans. We could walk among stars unafraid. The chamber grew tense. The medics murmured, torn between awe and fear. One younger medic asked what they all feared to voice, and if their resilience is also their weapon. If exposure to them spreads devastation we cannot withstand. Veron's gaze fell on Alex, who had stirred at their voices. The human sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes, voice still thick with congestion. You guys are making this way too dramatic. I'm not a plague, I'm not a weapon, I'm just sick. It'll pass. The words hung in the air, simple, ordinary, yet they struck the medics harder than any lecture. To them, illness was apocalypse. To this human, it was a passing storm. Veron stepped closer, meeting Alex's weary eyes. You truly do not fear this infection? Alex gave a tired smile. Of course not. Fear makes it worse. You take care of yourself. You rest. You get through it. That's just life. The phrase "that's just life" translated awkwardly into Rylock's speech, but the essence was clear. Illness was not an ending, but a rhythm of existence. For a long time Veron was silent, then he turned to his staff. This human will live. We will not dissect him, we will not tamper with his biology. Instead, we will learn not through extraction, but through observation. Lethra's markings flared in protest, but she bowed, hiding her frustration. The decision was final. The Rylox would not gamble with Pandora's box. Alex chuckled, then sneezed loudly. Good choice. Trust me, you don't want to mess with Earth germs. They've been messing with us for thousands of years. And we're still catching up. The medics blinked in bewilderment, but some part of them understood. Humanity's resilience was not a shield, nor a weapon, but a history written in blood and microbes, a story of survival that could not simply be copied. As Alex lay back down, drifting into sleep, Veron whispered to himself, his voice equal parts fear and admiration. Perhaps the greatest danger humanity carries is not its machines, nor its weapons, but its ability to endure what would destroy all others. And in the silent corridors of the Aurelia Prime, the Rylox knew one thing with certainty. The universe had underestimated Earth's children.